Hello everyone, this is the presentation of the assigned topic is principle number 22 to principle number 28.
Good day everyone, my name is Milky Inggutan and I am going to tackle the principles of aquaculture number 22 and 23. Principle number 22. In a constant level of food abundance, a population with sufficient number of fish are present will continue to grow or expand until the harvestable food available approaches the amount needed for the maintenance. It means that the fish pond must have a sustainable and constant level of food abundance in order to maintain the growth of the cultured species. And while the species are growing, their consumption of food also grows. That is why you have to maintain the level of food abundance in that certain fish pond. Principle number 23. The presence of piscivorous fish decreases the total weight in a population where reproduction is possible, but increases the average size of those surviving. It means if the piscivorous fish species are present in a fish pond like carps or Asian carps, Chinese carps, they can decrease the weight of the population of your cultured species and increase the rate of survival and decreases the survival rate of your cultured species.
Principle number 24. Rates of feeding for a particular species with a particular feed. Feeding to repletion is uneconomical. Feeding and maintenance is uneconomical. Economical feeding rate varies with a species and size of fish. This topic is important for fisheries and aquaculturists. We need to know and understand to properly feed the fish so that we can avoid damage in the pond, race, and so on. Underfeeding can result in loss of production. Overfeeding will cause a wastage of expensive feed and additional potential cause of water pollution. Feeding rate of a particular species and so on depends of an accurate estimate of average animals' weight, size, and of the number of animals production, unit of pond, cage, raceway, or tanks. All animals need to eat and all farm animals need to be fed. Feeding repletion is uneconomical but not to save cost or food on fish, because this feed contain all the essential nutrients to keep them healthy and growing. Fishes needed to diet for the nutritional needs. In fish feeding, they also need the maintenance for their food, but only moderately. As I said, both underfeeding and overfeeding has an impact which affect the viability of the farm. Feeding rate should not stay steady throughout the whole of the growing cycle to market size. They must be modified according to size and age of the fish or stream and to the water condition.
I'm Salina Murah. I belong to the group of Miss Vanessa, Mitzi, Moreño. And the assigned topic for me for today is the safe feeding rate per unit area of water, limited by efficiency of the ecological system to dispose waste. So, the first things that I want to discuss to you is the importance of feeding in the life of fish. So, feeding is extremely important factor of production in aquaculture and its levels. Of importance, it depends on the type of culture techniques and also feeding it is supply of fish to maintain or mainly dependent on environment. So the fish left in a low density, a large culture area. So we all know that the feeding is very important factors or aspect that we need in our life, in the life of fish, in individual's life. So feeding fish cannot exist without the feeding, without the food. So fish cannot live longer without the food, without the feeding. That's why it is important to the life of fish. So fish, we cannot exist, or we cannot grow, develop their bodies in the ecological system without the feeding, because feeding is the most important aspect or things that we need to consider in our life. So second is I want to discuss to you the three components of waste from aquaculture systems. So the first is solid waste. Solid waste is the primarily derived from the uneaten feed and fecal from droppings of culture fish. So according to the Akin Rule et al. 2016, they occasionally include those fish do not survive in the culture process. So in the culture process, because some of the fish cannot take these components because it is very dangerous to them. So solid waste can be further classified as suspended solids and settled solids. So the suspended solids are fine particles rather, and remains suspended in the water except when a method of coagulations or sedimentation is employed, and are the and also it is the most difficult types of solid to remove from culture systems. It is the most classified as a dangerous waste in the fish culture systems, because they can clog the fish gills and lead to death. So in these components, it is very dangerous to the life of fish, because it can cause the death of the fish. It can cause the easily poisonous to the fish, and it can cause the lead to death of the fish. That's why it is rarely to the life of fish. So second is the chemicals. Chemicals, current aquaculture or previous aquaculture practices strictly limit the use of chemicals in fish. However, some chemicals are still used nowadays in the form of a medications, a disinfectant, and antipollutants. So, according to the Red and Fernandez 2003, the medications are used for chemotherapeutic purposes, which include the antibiotics being used for a medications or for a prophylaxis and a curative purposes. And also there has some chemicals that not harmful to the fish, because it is connected to them, and it is used by using the procedure or by using the process of chemicals used in the ponds, the farms, in all aspects that going to. So the next is pathogens. Pathogens is also rarely considered in aquaculture systems, especially when it is below the level that affects the culture fish. However, discharging pathogens with the wastewater is not affected, but according to the Birds and Triplets 1997, many negatively affects that can cause to the natural water bodies. So, in pathogens, it is very rarely because it can cause also the death of fish, the poisonous of fish. That's why we need also to consider to study the three components on how to protect and on how to prevent danger, on how to avoid danger in the life of our ecological system and in our aquaculture. That's all. Thank you.
6. High quality feed must contain the proper proportion of optimum proportion of protein and essential amino acids. Protein consists of various amino acids, the composition of which gives the individual proteins in their unique characteristics. Many of the biochemicals required for normal bodily function are proteins, such as enzymes, hormones, and immunoglobulins. Fish, or like other animals, synthesize body proteins from amino acids in the diet and from some other sources. Amino acids that must be provided in diet called essential amino acids. Fats and essential fatty acids, these nutrient groups consist of several different compounds, fats and oils, in the form of triglycerides, provide a concentrated source of energy for aquatic species. It also supplies essential fatty acids that cannot be synthesized by the organisms. Carbohydrates. Fish do not have a specific dietary requirement for carbohydrates, but including these compounds in diets is an inexpensive source of energy. The ability of fish to utilize dietary carbohydrates for energy varies considerably. Many carnivorous species use it less efficiently than do herbivores and omnivorous species. Minerals. This nutrient group consists of inorganic elements that the body requires for various purposes. Fish require the same minerals are terrestrial animals for tissue formation, osmoregulation, and other metabolic functions. Minerals are typically classified as either macro or micro minerals based on the quantities required in the diet and stored in the body. Vitamins are essential for terrestrial animals and for several fish species that have been examined today. Vitamins are organic compounds required in relatively small concentration to support specific structural or metabolic functions.
Principle number 27. The quality of feed effects are the following: the amount of waste, health of the fish, rate of growth, and their reproduction. The amount of waste is the most important rule in fish nutrition is to avoid overfeeding. Overfeeding is a waste of expensive feed. It also results in water pollution, low dissolved oxygen level, increased biological oxygen demand, and increased bacterial loads. The second one is the health of the fish. This nutritional content of the feed depends on what species of fish is being cultured and what life stages. When fish are reared in high-density indoor systems or confined in cages and cannot forage freely on natural food. The third one is the rate of growth. Determine whether feeding rates are too low or too high is important in maximizing fish growth and feed use efficiently. The last one is the reproduction. This feeding method can be rather subjective because it depends on the feeding activity of the fish and the experience of the feeder. Ideally, feed should be provided in small amounts over the course of 20 to 30 minutes or until feeding activity slows.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Mitzi Moreño. Principle number 28. When a feed supply as a plant supplement, its quality must be upgraded by natural food organisms. So it means when a feed is supplied as plant supplement, the quality of feeding is must upgraded by natural food organisms. Like tilapias eat small shrimps and molds who grow in a pond.